Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
How to find your purpose and your mission in 2025. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. I apologize for anything that sounds odd about my voice. I have been through a massive sinus infection, started with the flu. Our family, it started in one end and went out the other. Not what you're thinking. I'm already off to a great start here. Meaning it started on one end, young kids, all the way to the oldest. It went through all of us. And fortunately, I had a very mild version, but it turned into a sinus infection. I had to fly out west for a couple days for a conference, and that I felt like my head was going to explode. And I came back and just had this massive sinus infection. So that's why I skipped last Sunday. If you're wondering, hey, what happened to you, Joe? Well, the whole family had the flu. I had to go fly. I did not have the flu when I flew, and that, man, I am a great start here. Hey guys, stick with me, I promise. I'm going to bring it all together. Yeah, so I did not have the flu. When I flew, I was feeling better, but I guess I still had a little bit of that just post-nasal drip, and it just got even worse on the flight, got worse out in out west, where, I'm used to having humidity, and there was none out there, and it was freezing, and it was just a hot mess. So anyhow, feeling better now. Still got a throat drop in as I'm recording this, but life is good. Kids are all back to school. Wife's happy as can be. And I got my purpose. So that's what we're talking about today. I get that question so much. Any of you who've been listening for a long time, I've talked about mission and purpose. I've written about it in the book, Fishing for Happiness. I spent a considerable amount of time talking about it in that book. I spent a pretty good amount of time talking about it in about an hour-long video I did on anxiety, which also was a podcast here on Unchurched. And that seems to be the question I get the most from people who watch the video on anxiety. And they don't seem to have a problem with, the breathing part of it and even the faith part of it. Obviously, some people struggle with that. I get it. I mean, that's the big reason I started this podcast in the first place, to, kind of talk about some things that I didn't understand or wasn't necessarily confident or comfortable in. And just wanted to share, because I know other people were, in the same situation I was, or maybe they were, or maybe they're going to be in their journey with God and with Jesus and with faith. But the one thing that's always tougher to kind of define and prescribe is a mission or a purpose. And that's because it's different for everyone. As I've shared, God put every one of us on this earth for a reason. If you're listening to this, that means you are here for a reason. God has a purpose for you. God does not make mistakes. I believe that with all of my heart. I also believe that we're all here for a different reason. He gave all of us different gifts, and some of them, they're small, but can do really, really big things. Some of them are just massive, and the whole world knows about them. Some, these gifts are discovered and or used or utilized later in life, some early in life, some, have multiple things that they go through as they age and mature. And even mine, looking back at that book I read, it's been, a little over 10 years now since I really kind of started writing that book. And I go back to even some of my notes. I go back to the book sometimes. I've been on some podcasts where people have interviewed me about it. And even some of the things that I was talking about and thinking about 10 years ago, right, in my mid-30s, I'm in mid-40s now, are different. I have different feelings about it. Even my mission has slightly changed, and not much for me. It's just a slight rendition. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today. And I'll kind of give you a good litmus test on if you hit the nail on the head. And in a perfect world, if you are working, obviously I know not everyone does. There's people who are just don't work. There's people who are retired. There's people who don't have to work. There's people like my brother are disabled and can't really work and go get a job. But I do think if you can find a way, if you are working and you find a way to tie in that mission and purpose with your work, man, life is a whole lot more fun. and I'll just tell you a quick story on that. So if you don't know, I took an entire month off last year, and it was the entire month of July. And when I say I took it off, that meant I couldn't check emails. I couldn't reply to people. I couldn't be on meetings. No one was allowed to reach out to me. And it was a challenge from this CEO group that I'm a part of. And like most of us that start companies, we do it and we're passionate about it. And a lot of them, we think they can't last without us. And that's obviously not a great company. If something is going to die the day that you die. And even if that's not true, I think so many entrepreneurs like me, we don't like losing momentum. And so we just kind of keep working. And even on vacation, we work. And even when we're supposed to be off, like weekends and stuff and doing things with the family, we're always still kind of thinking about it. And we're always kind of checking our phone and replying to emails. So this challenge came up and said, hey, see what happens. Like, the worst case shouldn't be your business like dies, right? I mean, if it dies from you being on a month, you don't have a business in the first place. It's on very, very shaky ground. There's no foundation. So I knew that wasn't going to happen, but still in my mind, I was like, well, man, what if like sales got cut in half? All these fears that were going through my head about why I shouldn't take a month off. And talked to my brother Luke, talked to leadership team, and everyone was excited. They're like, yeah, you need to. You haven't taken a week off ever, really. And even when I did take some, like a week off, for instance, that would have been about the most. I'm still checking emails and I'm still dropping in and replying to text. So this, because it's real easy to do that, right? To kind of get and say, oh yeah, I'm on vacation, and then still check in. And so I went cold turkey. No one's allowed to communicate with me. And vice versa, I am off the grid, even though I wasn't. But I was off the grid, technically speaking. And the only way someone was supposed to reach out to me is if a massive emergency happened. Okay. So July 1st happens, and we go to Anna Maria, go out boating and beaching and just having a good time. Got my phone off. I literally didn't take my phone down on the beach. Normally I would have it on the beach. It was really, really nice. It was a nice first few days. And then on I guess it was July 4th or 5th. So I'm only 3 days into it. My brother's calling me, and I didn't have my phone on me. So I saw it later that afternoon, and he's like, hey, and he sent me a text too. He's like, hey, I know we're not supposed to call you, but got an emergency. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, it's been 4 days. What happened? And he's like, I finally call him, and he's like, you won't believe this, but while you were gone, we got hacked, like a pretty sophisticated hack and cybersecurity hack. And they got into one of our bank accounts and stole $50,000. Fortunately, that was all we had in there. It was one of the accounts that we used to move money from Stripe into like a main bank account. And so fortunately, I think that was kind of where it maxes out, and then it moves stuff over. And so anyhow, they got in and literally just liquidated it, got every penny in there. And so $50,000 just gone, evaporated, adios. And what's crazy, we got call the cops. They're like, well, you need to call the FBI. This is, cyber deal. And FBI just laughs. They're like, $50,000. Like we're solving $50 million, $1 billion cyber deals. Yeah, just basically file it, and if you have cyber insurance, maybe they'll help out. And so basically, there's no help for a small business if you have a cyber attack. That's not millions and millions and millions of dollars. If it's 50,000 or 100,000, they don't even have time to deal with it. Here's the crazy part: they knew. We could see exactly the IP address. We could see exactly where it came from, who did it. And it wasn't here in America, obviously. Like, oh, what do you want us to do? Go fly across the country to, Russia and track this person down and try to get your 50K, like they're long gone. They're certainly have probably already ditched that computer and that system, and they're on to the next one. So long story short, I'm in day 5, and everything in my body, in my mind, everything is telling me I need to go back to work. This company can't last a week without me. It's falling apart. Things are getting cyber attacked and money stolen. And I was like, you know what? I obviously I was ticked off, and it's our money. We regardless of where your standing is financially, it's a lot of money. No one likes to lose just $50,000, and that was money that Luke and I had saved up because of Salt Strong, and it was just gone. And so I was already mad about that and a little bit anxious about that. Like, are we going to get it back? And what's going to happen with this? Is cyber insurance going to help? And are we just going to have to eat that and write it off? What's next? And I wanted all these answers, but I knew the only way I was going to get that is if I went back to work. And so I'd made a promise, and I said, I'm going to stick with it. So make it to the end. And by the end, I was so antsy, and I couldn't stop thinking about Salt Strong. I couldn't stop thinking about work, the people, our community, meaning like our members, certain things that we were going to be working on that year for Salt Strong. And it was just consuming me. And all I wanted to do was go back to work. And I will preface it by saying I had another great trip. Lauren and I went to Costa Rica for a week. She was able to take a week off. But besides that, she's got to work. It's tough for her to take time off. So we did the Anna Maria trip. And then that was just a long weekend, 4th of July, and then Costa Rica for a week. And besides that, my wife had to work. My kids ended up going to camp that whole second half. All my friends work. So I'm sitting there, and I'm not allowed to even communicate with people at my company. And there's only so many books you can read. I love reading books. I love sitting at the dock. But I mean, for 2 weeks straight, kind of just sitting at home, not that much I could do. I did go fishing a couple of times. And even then, all my friends were working, and all I wanted to do was go back to work. And so I share all that with you so you have the context of where I'm taking the story. And this end of this year and beginning of this year, the number one question I've had from my team, and even my buddy Chris McAllister, who I've had on here, they're all like, "Hey, you're going to take your month off again?" And I'm like, "No, heck no." I was like, I was miserable. And it was funny. The first thing Chris said, he's like, "Well, you know why, right?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "Well, because what I just told you guys, right? Because all my friends were working and my wife was working, and I wanted to go back." And he's like, "No, it's because your purpose, your mission in life is so closely aligned with what you do for a living, right? You unite friends and family through fishing. Your whole mission is uniting people together through your content and through your platform, right? That's what the book was about, Fishing for Happiness. That's what this podcast is about, right? I mean, he's like that. You're literally living your mission, and it hit me. I was like, well, man, you're right. And then I started thinking, all right, well, how could I share this to help other people? And I've had a couple other instances here recently where I've been able to help some people, and I won't share all the details, but some in the fishing business, some not in the fishing business. I've also had the opportunity to connect some people here recently, and I realized what a high that gave me, even though there's no money involved in any of these. And I realized, wow, like anytime I'm connecting people and uniting people together, like that is my mission, my purpose. And I believe you hit it on the head when you know it's something that gets you so much energy and you get so excited for. And when it's done, your spirits are just lifted when there's no money involved, meaning I would still do Salt Strong if I wasn't getting paid. I mean, for 2 years, I did do Salt Strong without getting paid, right? It is because I was living everything I believed I was put on this earth to do. I quit my multi-six-figure job. It wasn't just a six-figure job. It was a multi-six-figure job. Walked away from that, now making no money, went from doing pretty well in life to making zero. Actually, I was paying to work because Luke and I were having to pay into it just to work. And I'm telling you, those first couple years were so energizing. They were so much fun. And I never got tired. I never got to the point I didn't want to do it. And that's when you hit your purpose. And it doesn't have to be work, but usually with your purpose and mission, you're doing some sort of work. And meaning it doesn't have to be an occupation. It could be giving back. It could be helping your next door neighbor who's in ill health to get their groceries. All those things are a form of work. You're taking some sort of action to help someone or do something. But my point is, you hit the nail on the head with your purpose and your mission when you can find something that you can do for hours and hours and hours and hours, and maybe even years and years and years without even getting paid. It's cool if you do. Many times you end up getting paid because you're so good at it because you're in that flow state. But you've hit that mission, that purpose when you can just do something, and it could be creating music. I mean, it could be writing poetry. It could be writing a book that maybe no one's going to ever even read. You're never even going to publish it. You're just going to let your kids read it someday. Just things like that. That's all, once again, all sorts of forms of work. It's taking some sort of action to make something happen or to do something. But once you find that and you get in that flow and that groove, you don't want to stop it. You don't want to take a month off, right? Because you miss it so much. And that's why I feel so blessed and so lucky, and probably why I knock on wood here. I got a wood table here in front of me. I usually don't ever get sick. That was the first time. And even when I got the flu, it was a very, very mild version. I mean, I was in and out of the flu in like a day or two, where most people have stuck with it for a week or more. Of course, got the sinus infection. But all that being said, I rarely get sick. I think just because my spirit's always just so high, because I'm living and breathing that mission and purpose every day. And it wasn't always like that. When I was doing the financial services work, I was miserable half the time. I was so ready for the weekends. I was so ready for the end of day. I got tired of it really quickly. The exception being when we took our trips. We would have these reward trips that we would take our top advisors on around the world. And that was when I just loved it. I was uniting people together many times. I was the guy that kind of got the fishing captain role, meaning we were out entertaining people, and most people wanted to golf. I wasn't the biggest golf in the world. Know how to golf. I like golf, but I'll take fishing over golf all day long personally. And so if 80% of the people were golfing, and there's another 20 that really wanted to go fishing, I was the one in charge of doing that. And I had so much fun. Still, some of my favorite memories from that industry, and great conversations, and some of them still great friends and great people from that old industry that I got to go fishing with. So all that being said, if you're struggling with the mission and purpose, really think about what gives you that kind of energy. And maybe it's something you haven't done in a while, right? And I'm now even watching my kids, and I'm taking like literal notes on what gives my kids energy, and I watch it. And Savannah's kind of like me. I mean, if she's stuck inside reading a book and not around people, she is just bored. She's like got to go around being with other people, and she's just kind of that fire in a group of friends, and she's got that energy about her. Whereas Jackson, he can sit there and build with Legos, or he can draw for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. He could literally spend an entire Saturday inside if it's raining, and it won't bother him a bit. He's got so much internal energy just doing that. And Shauna's very similar. They're actually both wired very, very similar, where Shauna could sit there and read and build things, and draw. They both have really unique artistic abilities. Like to the point, I mean, Shauna got first place in the state for some art she did just last year at age 12. Really, and I don't know where the heck they got it from, because it's not me. I'm drawing stick figures over here. But anyhow, I've been writing that down just because if they get in a rut later in life, I want to remind them, and kind of maybe this is a reminder that you need, that hey, what were those things I did as a kid or as a teenager that just gave me so much fuel and gave me so much passion, things that I just never got tired of doing, and usually probably pretty good at, right? Because usually when you're good at something and you love something, you do it more and you get even better and you get even better and better and better. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're an expert. And they say that, 10,000 hours at something, you're great at that point in many cases. And that's like with my son Jackson and daughter Shauna. They've put so many hours in creating and thinking and drawing and building with Legos and blocks and stuff and making things. It's just so natural to them. Like their friends come over and are like, how do you know how to do that? And he's like, oh, it's easy. It's just he's done it so many stinking times. So what are those things for you? Maybe it's something you haven't done in a while. Maybe it's something you did in high school or college that gave you a ton of joy, and you haven't done it because it didn't make you money at the time, or it wasn't cool, or whatever the case or circumstance may be. Think about that and find some way to use that and maybe even plug that into your life to figure out that purpose or the mission. And it can start off super small. I think the biggest mistake people think with this mission or purpose is it's got to be, this massive, grandiose thing that's going to change the world. It does not, and it's very rare that it will. Even mine, to unite friends and family through fishing. Boom. That's it. And I get to do that here at my house. I live on a lake. This is all purpose, and I kind of set myself up to win that way. Where all my kids, when they have friends over, guess what's something we always do, especially if it's spring, summer, fall, winter, a little bit tougher, but in the majority of the months, and we go down and we catch fish off the dock. And many of these kids have never caught a fish before. And I'm like, that gives me so much joy. It's not even funny. I'm not getting paid to do it. I don't make money do it. I'm not trying to sell them Slam Shady lures. No, we're using just bread and an old rod and some mono line. Without even a reel, basically just cane pulling these big bluegill up. And I'm telling you, I grin ear to ear every time we get to do it. It gives me so much joy. Not changing the world, right? But maybe changing one of these kids' lives. Maybe they'll go on to do something awesome in marine biology or with marine sciences or with fishing or whatever it might be. So find that thing for you and bring it back into your life and just kind of whittle away until it hits you, and it will. Right. It didn't hit me right away. It took a while to figure out where I could actually write down what my mission statement is in life. It was something I had to think on and you have to pray on. But once you get it, it gives you a lot of clarity. It's your North Star. It's your compass. It's your guiding light, if you will. Anytime you have a decision to make about, well, hey, thinking about this or this, two really big decisions in life. And a lot of times my litmus test is, hey, does it align with my mission? Does it get me closer to achieving this mission, or does it detract from it? And if it detracts from it, I don't do it. I'm like, nope, it detracts from it. I don't really care what people are going to think, but I don't want to do that. And I can live easily with that decision, and you will too. So I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, hit me up. I love talking about this stuff. I love trying to help people uncover it. And my email, joe@saltstrong.com. And if you know what yours is, share it. Or if you need prayers over something, or prayers over, your spouses or kids or, someone else's in your life's mission or purpose, or just getting someone back on track, let me know. I love all the prayer requests and all the interaction I get with each and every one of you. So thank you guys. And otherwise, I'll talk to you in the next episode. I should be back 100%. Won't have to be relying on throat lozenges. What a wild episode here. All right, guys. Love you all. And I'll talk to you on the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.